Yo, what's up guys? My name is BananaRaccoon and this is my Feral Druid PvP guide for World of Warcraft Legion. In this guide, I'll be going over the optimum talents, honor talents, artifact pathing, stat priorities, macros and rotations for Feral Druid PvP. I'll put the link to each individual part down in the description below, but I would recommend watching the entire guide to get a full understanding of how to play a Feral Druid in PvP. So let's start with talents. On the first tier we have Predator, Blood Scent and Lunar Inspiration. Predator resets the cooldown of Tiger's Fury when a target dies with a bleed active. Blood Scent increases the crit chance of your melee abilities, and Lunar Inspiration allows you to use Moonfire in cat form. On this tier, you'll want Lunar Inspiration. Ferals in Legion are all about dots, so the additional dot synergizes really well with our playstyle, and it does a decent amount of damage. On the next tier, we have Renewal, Displace a Beast and Wild Charge. Renewal heals you for 30% of your max health on a 2-minute cooldown, Displace a Beast is a blink and a short dash on a 30-second cooldown, and Wild Charge is a leap on a 15-second cooldown. On this tier, you'll be choosing between Renewal and Wild Charge. If you feel like you'll be able to stick on your target, but you need a bit more survivability, you'll want Renewal, but otherwise take Wild Charge. Next we have our affinities, Balance, Guardian and Resto. Each affinity gives us abilities from that spec as well as a bonus passive. Balance increases the range of all abilities by 5 yards, Guardian reduces all damage we take, and Resto gives us a passive heal that heals us or an ally if we're at full health. All of these are viable and what you choose depends on the situation. If you know you won't be a target and you want to be a bit more aggressive, you will generally want the Balance affinity. If you're going to be the target, you'll want to take Guardian for the extra defensives, and if you want the healing, take Restoration. On the fourth tier we have Mighty Bash, Mass Entanglement and Typhoon. Mighty Bash is a 5-second stun on a 50-second cooldown, Mass Entanglement is an AoE root on a 30-second cooldown, and Typhoon is a knockback on a 30-second cooldown. Here, you'll want Mighty Bash. Next, we have Soul of the Forest, Incarnation and Savage Roar. Soul of the Forest gives us 12 energy per combo point spent, Incarnation is a big burst cooldown on a 3-minute cooldown, and Savage Roar increases all damage we deal by 25%. All of the talents on this tier are viable. Soul of the Forest is great if you want to focus on keeping up dots on all targets without energy starvation, Incarn is great if you need that burst, and Savage Roar is good for the 25% damage increase. On the 6th tier we have Sabertooth, Jagged Wounds and Alloon's Guidance. Sabertooth refreshes Rip whenever we Ferocious Bite, Jagged Wounds causes our bleeds to do 33% more damage for a 33% shorter duration, and Alloon's Guidance gives us 5 combo points, and then an additional 5 combo points over 5 seconds on a 45-second cooldown. On this tier, most of the time, you'll want to take Jagged Wounds for the increased damage, but Alloon's Guidance works really well in duels for big openers. Finally, we have Brutal Slash, Blood Talons and Moment of Clarity. Brutal Slash is an AoE ability with 3 charges that does a lot of damage. Blood Talons increases the damage of our next 2 abilities after casting Regrowth, and Moment of Clarity causes our Omen of Clarity proc to make our next 3 abilities have no energy cost, as well as increasing our max energy by 30. Now, all 3 of these are viable. Brutal Slash is great if you need a bit of extra burst on a short cooldown, Blood Talons is great for big sustained damage, and Moment of Clarity is good if you're feeling energy starved and are having trouble keeping up dots on multiple targets. I tend to find that Blood Talons tends to pull ahead in most situations though. And now onto the honor talents. On the first tier we have Gladiator's Medallion, Adaptation and Relentless. Gladiator's Medallion allows us to get out of CC on a 2-minute cooldown. Adaptation automatically gets us out of CC that has a duration of 5 seconds or more on a 1-minute cooldown, and Relentless reduces the duration of all CC on us. Here you'll want to take Gladiator's Medallion. As we are really susceptible to dying in stuns, having the trinket option for those moments is a necessity. The only time I might take Relentless is against comps that don't have stuns but rely on a lot of spam CC. Next we have Hardiness, Reinforced Armor and Sparring. Hardiness causes us to take 20% less damage when above 80% health, Reinforced Armor increases our health by 10%, and Sparring gives us a 20% chance for melee attacks to deal 50% less damage. On this tier, you'll want to take Reinforced Armor against wizards and Sparring against melee. On the 3rd tier, we have Shapemender, Protector of the Grove and Leader of the Pack. Shapemender heals us for 5% of our health every time we shapeshift on a 5-second cooldown. Protector of the Grove causes our regrowths to always critically heal when used on an ally, and then halves the cast time of regrowth for 6 seconds. Leader of the Pack causes our shred to heal all allies within 10 yards. All three of these are viable. Shape Mender is good in duels if you know you won't be using Shred a lot. Protector of the Grove will be your go-to for most arena games, as the off-heals are amazing. Leader of the Pack is going to be using Shred a lot if you know you won't be healing your teammates. On the 4th tier we have Pouncing Strikes, Freedom of the Herd and Primal Vitality. Primal Strikes increases the range of Rip and Maim by 5 yards. Freedom of the Herd causes our stampeding roar to dispel roots and snares from ourselves and allies, and Primal Vitality gives us an instant regrowth when entering stealth. As ferals are all about spreading bleeds and stunning, you'll want to take Pouncing Strikes as it makes this a lot easier. Next we have King of the Jungle, Blood Trauma and Furious Swipes. King of the Jungle increases our movement speed and damage by 4% per active rip, stacking up to 3 times. Blood Trauma increases Main's damage by 100% and makes it an incap instead of a stun, and Fury Swipes gives us a free swipe after using Thrash. Here, you'll want to take King of the Jungle, as we're constantly spreading our bleeds about. Blood Trauma does have its place if you need that extra CC score, but it does break on damage. Finally, we have Savage Momentum, Fresh Wound, and Rip and Tear. Savage Momentum resets the cooldown of Tiger's Fury whenever we kick somebody, Fresh Wound gives us a 60% increased crit chance on Rake, and Rip and Tear instantly applies Rake and Rip on a 1 minute cooldown. Here, you'll be choosing between Savage Momentum and Rip and Tear. Against wizards, you'll want to take Savage Momentum, but if you're dueling a melee or against double melee in 2v2 arena, you'll want to take Rip and Tear. Now onto the stat priorities. When entering instance PvP like arenas and battlegrounds, you will automatically have your stats changed to a set number, so stat priorities don't really matter there, but for world PvP, our stat priority is Agility, Versatility, Mastery, Crit, and then Haste. Versatility increases our healing and damage, as well as reducing damage we take, Mastery increases our bleed damage, Crit increases our damage and healing, and Haste increases energy regeneration, attack speed, and reduces cast time. Now onto the artifact weapon pathing. You'll first want to follow the red line, as this focuses on increasing our bleed damage, then take the blue line for the increased damage during our burst, then the green line as it increases our shred crit chance as well as buffing our wall and makes it so our roots don't break on damage, but then the 3 remaining traits don't really matter unless you're playing with Brutal Slash. If you are, take the Sharpened Claw trait first. When it comes to macros, I use a form of macroing called Modify Macros. What this is that when I use Shift, Control or Alt whilst pressing the keybind, it will do something else. This is my Dispel macro, Entangling Roots macro, Focus Kick macro, Friendly Wild Charge macro, Regrowth macro, Rejuve macro, Swift Mend macro, Healing Touch macro, Focus Maim macro, Focus Bash, and then finally the One Shot macro. And now finally onto the rotation. Ferals have a unique mechanic called Snapshotting. Snapshotting is when you use damage modifying abilities like Savage Roar, Tiger's Fury and Blood Talons to increase our dot damage. When playing a feral, to do the most damage possible, you will want to make sure you line your damage modifying abilities up with your dots. For example, if you line up Rip with the 25% damage increase from Savage Roar, the 15% increase from Tiger's Fury, and the 50% increase from Blood Talons, that Rip will be doing 90% more damage. In PvP, there is no set rotation as everything is situational, so let's take a look at the rotation in a priority system. 1. Savage Roar, 2. A 5 combo point Rip, 3. Ashamane's Frenzy, 4. Rake, 5. Moonfire, 6. Shred, and then finally a 5 combo point Ferocious Bite. You will want to keep up your Savage Roar buff at all times, as well as making sure you keep up your Rips, Breaks and Moonfires on as many targets as possible. Like I said earlier, you will want to make sure you're snapshotting them as often as possible. So that's it for my Feral Druid PvP guide. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comment section below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I hope you found this guide helpful, and if you did, please give it a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Feral Druid content. I have been BananaRaccoon and thank you for watching.